Alright, ghost stories. Enough of this fooling around with this rock band fake guitar. Let's talk about Ghost Stories. Ghost Stories is one of those films that is another one of those independent, low-budget films. But boy, oh boy, is this a frightening film. I watched it with a group of people. It was funny to see how many people were freaking out by this film. Ghost Stories, directed by two directors, Jeremy Dyson and Andy Nyman. Up and coming, what a way to come up. What a way to present yourself. What an introduction to the world of cinema. What an introduction to the world of Hollywood. This film also does not star any mainstream, well, let me phrase that, not any big name mainstream actors. Its biggest is Martin Freeman. For those of you who don't know who that is, he plays in the Hobbit films. He had a role also in the Lord of the Rings films. He plays Watson in the Sherlock series. So Martin Freeman has a long list of accolades. He appeared in Fargo season 1, did a hellacious job, and that's that first season. So Martin Freeman's not one of those guys. Martin Freeman's the kind of guy, when I see his name, I'm interested in watching, because he's the kind of actor who's not going to appear in just about anything. He's not going to sell himself out just for the money. He's going to take part in a project that he loves. So this film stars Martin Freeman. The rest of the cast is relatively unknown. It stars one of the directors, Andy Nyman, as the main actor. It also stars Paul Whitehouse, Alex Slaughter, Paul Warren, a ton of actors. I can name you almost all of them, but at the end of the day, you probably won't recognize any of them. So what is Ghost Stories? Ghost Stories is an anthology film. Well, it plays out like an anthology film. So for those of you who've seen VHS, 1, 2, 3, ACB, ABC, I believe there's quite a few of them. This is the kind of style that Ghost Stories plays into. The story features 3 separate stories. It is about the main character, who is a debunker of, well, myths, legends, ghosts, theories, superstitions, magical, anything of that nature that people say cannot be explained. He goes out there and he debunks all of them, and he searches for the truth in order to give the people that these mystical individuals, these magicians and etc., are presenting to an audience that they actually have powers. So his job is to search and to find the truth, and then present them to the audience and be like, listen, you guys have been fooled. This guy can't read minds. He's got an earpiece in his ear and he's being told all this information through your Facebook account or through your social media accounts. That's where he's getting all this news about what has occurred in your life or those who have passed away, etc. and etc. So, and this is Andy Nyman's character. He's the individual known as Professor Goodman. Professor Goodman is on the path of righteousness, of giving everyone the truth. Until he ends up getting a call from one of his idols, the world-famous debunker, the world-famous, someone who is at an elite level in the same field as to what Professor Goodman does. The individual's named Mike Priddle. He contacts Professor Goodman, informing him that he would like to sit down and meet with him, which is interesting for Professor Goodman, because he was under the impression that Mike Priddle was dead this entire time, that his icon had passed away. He was nowhere to be found for the last over 20 years. So now he goes to meet with him. So that just should be something that you should be aware of, that if he thought he was dead, then it's a good chance something's going on, right? And it's another one of those films that has a twist, that when the twist occurs at the end, it is extremely satisfying. There is nothing. It all ties in together, and you appreciate what you're witnessing, because for the simple reason that the stories were original, the scares were original, everything about it was frightening, and it played with a lot of different tropes that are known to the horror genre. Professor Goodman visits with his icon, sits down whenever they speak, and what ends up happening is he is told that there are 3 cases that he was never able to solve, which is why he has now come to the conclusion that magic and mysteries and goblins, they all actually exist. Due to the fact that there is no explanation that can be given as to why these occurrences have occurred to these 3 individuals. So Professor Goodman accepts this task, accepts this challenge. The challenge is to tell him he is wrong, that this actually has a reason as to what happens. Professor Goodman is under the impression that the mind sees what the mind wants it to see, which is true in some cases. The mind does play tricks on us. Sometimes we do believe we've seen something that we've never seen. In the case of déjà vu, we believe we've actually experienced something without actually having truly experienced it. Professor Goodman's character first starts his trip by visiting an individual who works in a factory. While he works in doing security, He sits in a abandoned warehouse. There are 4 different warehouses attached to one another. There are dolls, there are mannequins, it's a furnace, it's a boiler room, it's a lot of things in one. So the individual is tasked with every night, when his shift is, he sits there and he watches. What the story is that one night something occurs. One night he experiences something that is unexplainable. A spirit comes to visit him, and the spirit takes the form of one of the mannequins and starts to chase after him. It starts to frighten him in the night, and it is the jump scares that truly get you. But what gets you most, and what this film plays with throughout, is something that Paranormal Activity started, and that is dealing with sound. That is making sound a character. You see, a lot of films have done this in the past, but no film has ever gotten it as right or as perfect as a Paranormal Activity franchise. And this is true, because there's no greater fear than the sound. Right? You could be at home by yourself watching a film, or you could be at home lying in bed, and all of a sudden you will just hear a or a creak, or the sound of what sounds like a door opening. And all sorts of things go into your mind, which there comes into play. Your mind plays tricks with you. So when you're hearing these sounds, you're never really quite sure what it could be, but a lot of explanation. A lot is explainable. Some sounds occur, someone flushing a toilet, some sounds occur from your stairs having creaks, some sounds occur from maybe your air conditioning turning on. Sounds, these kind of factors are all explainable, but in the terms of this film, due to the fact that there isn't really a soundtrack to play off of, such as the Halloween franchise where you knew the killer was coming, or it was whatever, the guy's there. This is solely on the idea of there's a creaking sound, there's something tumbling, something falls, and it's that which frightens you, the idea that something is out there, and now this character has got to go to find out what's going on. So that is what the first story is about. The second story is about a little boy, well, not a little boy, a boy who's in about his teenage years. He's a bit of a strange one. He's a firm believer in demonic possessions and just and that type of nature in general, right? So he goes out one day into the woods looking for something that he was told that he could find out in this forest. So as he's driving out in this forest, he ends up hitting somebody. But this is not just anybody. This is well, you can call it a centaur. It's a half goat, half human, with human legs but the goat head. In other words, it's Satan himself. In the form of Satan, he has now hit Satan, and Satan's not pleased with the fact that he's been hit by this young little boy. So Satan starts to chase after him. So we've got ourselves one of these sequences that takes place in a forest where you're not sure what's going to pop out, who's coming, where is he hiding from, until the boy runs into something that possesses him. And this thing ends up possessing him to the point where now he feels death around him at all times. He has no choice but to live in his room with the heaters on at the highest level possible in order to keep himself warm, because it is too cold for him to deal with what's going on. The family plays a weird factor, because they are also very strange in terms that they have also, at this point, we're under the belief that they have been possessed. Once Professor Goodman finds his way into the room, before even finding his way into the room, he sees someone playing around upstairs in the attic. Turns out there's actually nobody there. Once again, the mind is playing tricks on either the audience or Professor Goodman's character. So Professor Goodman enters into the room. There's a brief sequence where the parents do this weird thing. They don't say a word, but they're told to F off. So it becomes apparent that there is more going on. Once he moves on to the third case, he meets Martin Freeman's character. And Martin Freeman's character is a widow. His wife passed away, and as he's living at home, on his own in his home, he is a businessman who's constantly on his phone, and he is ignoring what's going on around him. He's also not fully attentive to his wife's needs due to the fact that business must go on. So he's the typical business character who is basically not a part of his wife's life. He is unaware as to what's going on in the real world due to the fact that he's so focused on his job, on his business. As this is going on, this is where the Paranormal Activity style starts to appear, where stuff starts to fly off the shelf. Things start to fall on the floor. The little mannequin he has in his daughter's bedroom starts to walk, or starts to move, or starts to come closer to him when he turns around, and it's suddenly there. All these unexplainable things start to happen. He eventually ends up seeing his wife in his home, but it's not his wife. It is a demonic possession of his wife, and the demonic possession of his wife charges at him. So now Professor Goodman's character is tasked with having to come up with an explanation as to what is going on. Why are these people experiencing these weird occurrences? Why has there been One has seen a demonic possession. One has seen Satan himself. One has seen the unexplainable of a mannequin coming to life and coming after him, to the point where the lights are suddenly turning off. What is it that is actually happening around him? He sticks with the idea that it is the mind playing tricks, which is where the twist comes into play. This film is only about an hour and 38 minutes, and it is a breeze through, and it is a fun film. You get all the scares you need, you get all the jumps, same thing as scares. It plays with your mind. It makes you question what's going on. You're playing a game as the Professor Goodman's character is playing this game. And trying to figure out an explanation as to what's going on. You're looking for every detail in the film, and that's what's very important, is paying attention to the necessary details, because certain things reoccur in each individual's story, of each individual's experience with the other side, with the demonic world. And this is one of those films where you really need to be attentive. You can't be doing something and doing something else at the same time. You have to solely be focused on what is presented towards you. Ghost stories, this is the way you kick things off if you're trying to break it into Hollywood. This is your debut. This is your film that you present to the world. An anthology which isn't an anthology, which ties it all together and which gives you a full circle. Will come full circle and it gives you a full story. Ghost Stories is a 7.5 on 10. It ranks up there the same as Summer of '84. They're both frightening films. They're both mind teasers. They're both an experience to enjoy. These are the kind of films where when you sit back and you watch, you walk out and you're happy that you sat through this film. Everyone in this film, from the unknown actors to the unknown director who's up and coming to Martin Freeman's characters, brings you believable storytelling, brings you believable acting. I mean, the writing, the directing, the style, very well done. You've got the long shots in the hallways. You've got the shots from behind the shoulder. You've got everything that you need that allows you to see everything on frame. It's not one of those things where it's up in your face and that's all you're seeing. You've got the character, you've got the background, you've got everything involved, because everything plays a part in this film. Everything is an important aspect. The cinematography, everyone from the director to the cinematographer to the writers to the sound design, to the sound incorporated in this film. They play well off. And when I said there wasn't really much music, but the sound I'm talking about is the creaks, is the cracks, is the sound of doors opening, is all of that. And it plays a factor into making this film a 7.5 on 10, into making this film a frightening experience for the audience. Right? This is one of those films that you want to sit back, turn the lights off, and try and get yourself scared, and try and play with tricks on yourself with your mind, because you start to hear things after you hear this. This is one of those films where you walk home after Paranormal Activity, and all of a sudden you hear, and you're like, what the fuck was that? So this is another one of those films. This is another one of those films that I do suggest checking out. If I'm gonna nitpick, I wish it was a little longer. I wish that the twist at the end was a little bit more fleshed out than it was, to give us a better explanation as to what got this individual to the state that he's in. The film actually lacks any female characters at all. They mostly play the role of being dead and just frightening people. That's it. That's all actually it. There's no real female character that is a part of this film that plays a secondary character, and it seems to be the trend with the two films that I've watched. There are female characters, but they're there for a total of probably 5 minutes of screen time. One is there to play a goblin or a zombie or a ghost, and the other one in the other film is there to play a love interest, but barely even noticeable love interest. You take the nitpicks of the lack of females in the films away, you've got yourself two interesting, two frightening, two different kind of stylistic films, murder mystery, one straight horror, and you have yourself a fun ride. You want to watch both back to back, you can pull that off. So that's Jay at the Movies for you this week. Next week we're going to try and switch things up. We're not going to solely focus on reviewing films like I've done for the last couple of weeks. We're going to bring something interesting. We're going to have some fun with these movies. We're going to discuss a little bit of different things, go into detail of what makes these stories so interesting to myself, what makes these stories so interesting to the people who watch these, to the audience, to the moviegoers in general. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This was a lot more relaxed than it is normally. This was dealing with horror. I'm a little shaken up from what I've seen. As you see, I've got my guitar ready just in case I gotta bash a ghost in the head. I'm prepared for this stuff. With all of that being said, I thank you once again for watching, for tuning in. For those of you who do tune in, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment if there's something you want to talk about, if there's something you would like for me to review or to discuss, or if you've actually seen these films and you want to let me know how you felt about them. My links to my social media pages are all at the bottom. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, it's all down there. If you want to check out these films, they're going to be on the streaming services coming soon. They'll be on Blu-ray and DVD. The link's going to be above to Amazon to check them out. With that being said, I'll see you all next week. Be safe, be healthy. This was Jay at the Movies. Thank you for tuning in. And I got to get back to the band because we've got an album coming out. I'll see you next week.